What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my transfer tips for game week 27. So I'm going to go through some of the popular players being put into people's squads or being taken out and give my opinion on whether they are good moves or not. So let's get into it. So let's start with Kevin Schade and Dango. A lot of people are going to be looking to bring in Brentford players this week. Quick reminder of their fixtures. Game week 27, Brighton at home. That's followed by Burnley away, Bournemouth away, Wolves at home, Leeds away. And if you're playing through and not wildcarding after the blank, it's then Everton at home in 32, Fulham at home in 33, Man United away in 34. So the fixtures are pretty good the whole way through. Between these two players, there's really not much to split them. I did mention in yesterday's video that the preference might be to wait and see what happens in game week 27, then make your decision in 28. But it seems pretty likely they're both going to start. Before Schade got his red card, or at least in the game that he got the red card, they both started together. So I suspect that is what will happen moving forward. The only thing that slightly worries me, and I do think this is probably just overthinking, is look at what happened with Collins. He picks up an injury, he's out of the team, and now it looks like he can't get back in. Like, he started last night in the FA Cup for a team that was pretty much rotated. There were a few players in there like Coyote in the starting 11, but for the most part it was a second string team. So is Collins going to get back in? When will that happen? Now Schade's got his red card and Brentford have been playing well. Would he definitely go straight back in? He probably does. I'm like 99% sure he'll be in that starting 11 in game week 27. It's just a slight concern because of how Andrews has handled other players in the team. Anyway, let's assume they both start. Which one do you pick? I mean, I'd probably go for Schade just about based on the stats so far this season. 0.37 non-penalty expected goals per 90 versus Utara's 0.3. Creativity-wise, they're very similar. So Schade's had ever so slightly more goal threat, but that's about it. That's the only way to split them, I think. Obviously, if you're struggling for cash, then just buy Utara because he's much cheaper at 5.8. But if cash is not a problem, I probably just about prefer Schade. There's hardly anything else to split them. Creativity, very similar. When they've started, their minutes per start are both 82. Like, Utara's had more points per match, but that doesn't necessarily mean that will continue, right? Because the underlying numbers, are just about in Schade's favour. So I think both players are good. I think if you're on a strategy where you're dead ending to game week 31, then wildcarding afterwards, going for Brentford players makes sense. If I was buying this, well, look, I might buy in game week 28. Right now, my plan is Schade. But, I mean, I'm human, right? If Utara does really well in 27, I might change my mind. If there's a path which I need extra money for, I might just end up going Utara. I don't think it really matters. And they're both fairly differential as well. Like, not that many people own them at the moment. So, if I had to pick one, Schade, but basically they both were. I mean, you could even double up if you wanted to. The fixtures are pretty good. So what if you want a cheap midfielder that's not from Brentford? I've got a list of 6 here. So Wilson, Szoboszlai, Ryan, Somerville, Ahmad, and then Sarr. Who is the best one to go for? If you're on a strategy where you're wildcarding in game week 32 and playing up to the blank in 31, I really like Wilson. Fulham's fixtures are Sunderland away, Spurs at home, West Ham at home, Forest away, Burnley at home. It just looks really good. He's starting regularly. He did get subbed early in game week 26 around the 70th minute, but that was probably because it's a midweek fixture. Before that, he was playing 90 minutes quite a lot. Now, he does have a bit more competition now. Obviously, they've signed Oscar Bob. He can play in similar positions, but I think it's clear that Wilson is first choice, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon. I guess if he has a couple of really bad games, Marco Silva might change it, but he's done so well, I would expect him to just stay in the team. And for 6 million, he's a pretty solid pick. He's not like a massive differential or anything, because a lot of people have owned him for quite a while, but he's still just a good solid pick from now until game week 31. So he's one of my favourite options on this list. I really like Dominic Szoboszlai as well. The fixtures are good for Liverpool. They play Brighton away in game week 31 rather than Burnley at home, which is what Fulham have got. But the fixtures overall for the next 5 game weeks are good. It's Forest away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Spurs at home, Brighton away. I really like the fact he always starts. You never have to worry about that. If he's fit enough, he'll always play 90 minutes as well. There's just not really any concerns about his game time. The only thing is, I think he will frustrate people because he will get game time at right back because Gomez can never stay fit. And even when Frimpong's back, he's got to stay fit as well, and he can get subbed early sometimes. So sometimes it's a case that Szoboszlai will start in midfield and then for the last 20, 30 minutes, he'll move to right back. Now, I don't think it's a massive issue for FPL. He'll still get forward. He's still on set pieces. And if he starts at right back, that's more chance of getting defensive contributions as well. So he's not a bad pick either way, but I just know how people think about FPL. It will frustrate a lot of you if he plays right back. If you're one of those people, just don't buy him. Because as soon as it happens, you'll start thinking about selling him. It's just a waste of a transfer. So I think Szoboszlai is a solid pick. You could argue maybe even slightly better than Wilson because of the guaranteed minutes. But I think Wilson's minutes are generally just fine. So I wouldn't panic about that too much. Ryan is really popular. I think for 7 million or below for midfielders, he's the most transferred in this week, which isn't a surprise. 3 returns in his first 3 games for Bournemouth. Really good minutes in the last 2 as well. The only slight concern I have, and it is only minor, what happens when Tavernier's back? Like, he could be back around game weeks 28, 29. Does that impact Ryan's minutes? Now, they could just both start, right? It's not necessarily a massive issue. But once you start adding players back into that team, the minutes of everyone kind of comes down a little bit. So things look really good right now. He's obviously burst onto the scene, a bit like Michael Richards, and done really well straight away. And there is part of me that thinks, like, why would Iraola change it? Like, he just looks really good. But I guess there's always small doubts of a player that's a little bit more of an unknown that's new to the league. But West Ham away, Sunderland at home, Brentford at home, Burnley away, Man United at home just looks really good. There's part of me that basically wants to sit here and say, just buy Ryan. Honestly, I love the next 4 fixtures. And although he has got the most chances in this week, he's a big differential still because not many people owned him before this week. And it's not like he's had 300,000 chances in or anything like that. It's actually less than 70k. So if you're one of those people that wants to take a punt, I think Ryan's the one. If you want the absolute guaranteed minutes, it's Szoboszlai. Otherwise, I just really like Wilson. Versus a Brentford midfielder, by the way, if Utara and Schade are both going to start regularly, which I think they will, I think my preference is to go for one of them. But if for any reason you don't want to go there, Wilson's probably going to be top of the list for me. Somerville has done really well recently. He also scored in the FA Cup too, but I think he's an easy ignore. Next 5 game weeks, Liverpool away, City at home and Villa away are 3 of them. I just don't think you go for West Ham players. If you've got them, maybe there's a case to keep hold of them. We'll talk about Bowen later on, but I wouldn't buy. Amad Diallo is also fine, to be honest. The only thing with Man United is they're still good picks, and if you've got them, you're definitely going to hold on to them, especially like Bruno Fernandes, even Brian Mbeumo. But you've missed a few of the good fixtures, like the home ones now. Whereas if you're buying at this point, you've got Everton away, Newcastle away in the next 3, and in between that, it's Palace at home. Then it's Villa at home in 30 and Bournemouth away in 31. None of these are completely terrible fixtures. I just question whether this is the best time to buy a Man United player, essentially. So I like Ahmad as a pick. His minutes look good. But I think I'd probably prefer to buy one of the top 3, Wilson, Szoboszlai or Ryan. And then for Sarr, if you're playing up until blank game week 31, wildcarding afterwards, I think you've got to probably ignore him now unless you've got a lot of transfers. Because Wolves at home, Man United away, Spurs away, Leeds at home is not bad. But then he blanks in 31. So for a lot of you, if you bring him in, you might have to take him back out again. Now, if he's on penalties, that's fine. But we know Mateta's not having surgery and he could be back in 1 or 2 weeks. And once he's back, you presume he'll be on penalties instead. So you're buying a player that's only got 4 fixtures in the next 5, might not be on penalties long term. Like for the next 4, he's still a good pick, penalties or not. But do you have enough chances to contend with that? If, by the way, you've decided you're going to free hit in game week 31, then I really like Sarr. Because after the blank, in 32, it's Newcastle at home. I think it's West Ham at home after that. Yeah, West Ham at home in 33. And there is a chance that Palace would double in 33 as well. That's not a guarantee. I have to keep saying that, but it's a possibility. So if you're on a free hit 31 strategy, you've locked that in. Sarr's probably the best one to go for. If you're on wildcard 32, unless you're swimming in transfers, I'd probably just ignore him. So let's stick to midfielders and talk about Antoine Semenyo next. And basically, he continues to look like a pretty good pick. He's starting all the time. He's playing 90 minutes as well. And he's just got rested in the FA Cup. So you know he's almost certainly going to start against Newcastle at home. And if you've got him in your team, you're not looking to sell him anytime soon. Newcastle at home, Leeds away, Forest at home, West Ham away, next 4 fixtures. Then you decide what to do in blank game week 31. The bigger question is, if you don't own him, should you be looking to bring him in? I think that depends on your strategy and also how many transfers you've got. So if you're looking to wildcard in 32 and play through game week 31 with free transfers, well, he doesn't have a fixture that week. So if you're sat there with 1 or 2 free transfers, is it worth bringing Semenyo in to then have to take him back out in 31? Is he that good? I don't think he is. Now, please understand what I'm saying here. I think he is a good pick for the next 4 fixtures, but I would question whether it's worth using a transfer to bring him in to then have to take him out to someone else that's got a fixture in 31. Like, is he that good versus just buying a player that's got good fixtures now as well, but also a game in 31? So, for example, if I could guarantee that Schade started the next 5 game weeks, I think I would prefer to buy him right now than to buy Semenyo, because the fixtures are just as good for Brentford and they definitely play in 31. Now, I can't guarantee that Schade will start the next fixtures, but I guess I can't guarantee it for Semenyo either. I mean, from how he's played so far and from what he adds to that Man City team, presumably he will keep starting. But I think it's worth reiterating, he's a Man City player. We've been here plenty of times before. At some point, he could just get a random benching. Like, that is possible to happen. And also, I think, and I know this sounds, I've said this before and it sounds even more stupid now because he's just got a 14-pointer in game week 26. I think people talk about Semenyo as if he's essential, as if he's miles better than all the other midfielders. And I'm not sure that's the case. And I know how many points he's got so far this season. He's been great, right? But week to week, I just don't know if he's miles better than some of the other options at his price or below. And a lot of those players have a fixture in game week 31. So as a non-owner of Semenyo, do I watch every Man City game hoping he doesn't score? Of course I do, because I know his ownership's so high. But before the game start, I'm not sat there in a panic about not owning him. I've got no plans to buy him myself because of the blank in game week 31. And this happens every season, by the way. There's always a few players that we ignore. Some of them do really well. Some of them don't. You just got to hope you get lucky. So I do, again, I just want to clarify. I think for the next 4 weeks, he looks pretty good. If you're sat there with 3, 4, 5 transfers, maybe you can justify bringing him in to then take him back out in 31. But for most other people, I would just continue to ignore him. And if you've got him, obviously you just hold him and decide what to do later on. So pretty good pick for sure. I just don't think he's as essential as everyone else seems to think. So I know I've already spoken about Dominic Szoboszlai, but some of you might be looking for a different Liverpool attacker to bring in. Probably the likes of Vert, Salah or Ekitike. You could include Gakpo in the list as well, and he's actually a bit cheaper than these 3 at 7.3 million. And he does seem to always start, but I just think his minutes are slightly worse. Like, he's more likely to get subbed early. So I'm not discounting him as a pick, but I think most people are probably not looking at Gakpo right now, myself included. If you've got the money in midfield, I'd prefer to buy Verts instead. Quick reminder of the fixtures. Forest away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Spurs at home, and then Brighton away up until blank game week 31. That looks pretty good. Then it's Fulham at home in 32. So if you've already used your wild card, the fixture after the blank is not bad either. And there's still a chance Liverpool could double in game week 33. Now, that's based on the FA Cup. We need to wait a few more rounds to get that information, but it is possible. So Liverpool in general just look pretty good, whatever your strategy is. I basically like all 3 of these players. If you've got the money to go for Salah as a huge differential, I like him. If you need a new midfielder that's a bit cheaper, Verts is really good. And if you want a new forward, it's probably Ekitike right now, unless you don't own Thiago. Now, if you don't have Thiago, he is my preference, because his minutes are absolutely guaranteed. He always starts and he's on penalties. I think with Ekitike, he's going to start most of these games, but we know, because we've seen it already, Slot will manage him. So then, like, for the next 5 game weeks, could you sit here and absolutely 100% guarantee Ekitike is going to start all of them? Probably not. He probably starts at least 4, and it's possible he starts all 5, but I don't think you could guarantee it like you can with other players. So if you're buying a new forward and you don't own Thiago, he's my preference. But if you've got him already, then Ekitike is right up there. Like, if Haaland misses out this week, which obviously we'll find out later on from Pep, I'm pretty sure Ekitike is who I would buy, even with that slight risk of the minutes, because I just think he looks pretty good. The fixtures are decent. Liverpool are playing well at the moment. And his goal threat's the best of all 3 of these. 0.5 non-penalty expected goals per 90. So really like Ekitike. I think often people will say, who should I buy, Ekitike or Verts? I mean, the answer is always, it depends who you need to sell, right? If you need a new forward, it's Ekitike. If you need a new midfielder, it's Verts. In isolation, for some reason, it's one or the other, I probably would just go for Wirtz. I think his minutes look really good right now. He's playing 90 minutes quite regularly. He seems to have got over any issues that he had earlier on where he had to be subbed early, had to miss the odd game. He's just, I guess sometimes it just takes players time to get used to playing in the Premier League, not for all of them, but for some of them. And Wirtz seems to be there right now. His underlying numbers looking really healthy. They're kind of Bruno Fernandes level almost right now. And he's one of those players that when he gets an attack and return, he will get bonus. So Wirtz looks really good. I got my eye on him from game week 28. And then Salah really depends on your money situation. Like if you can get up to him and it doesn't have a massive detrimental effect on the rest of your team, then why not? He's a massive differential. We know he's first choice on penalties. He's starting all the time at the moment. When he does start, he never gets subbed early. I just quite like him. Even to the point where I've been looking at options that if Haaland misses out, what will I do? And I spoke about that on the early thoughts video yesterday. Maybe Haaland to Ekitike and then Rice to Salah. It even got to the point yesterday when I was thinking about it. I was almost thinking, it wouldn't be the worst thing if Haaland misses out. I'd quite like to go for that and just have triple Liverpool for the fixtures they've got coming up. I mean, would I consider it if Haaland's fit? Probably not. But you never know. I mean, Salah captain versus West Ham at home could be quite nice. Now, I mean, recently, I think it's worth saying the counterpoint here, which I think a lot of people will probably agree with. I mean, he's not really done much to justify his price tag recently. Like last 4 games since he came back from AFCON, 6-2, 5-5. It's not exactly huge, but when you look at the underlying numbers so far this season, they've been pretty good. And in all of these games, this is his expected goal involvement, 0.67, 0.73, 0.59, 0.87. That's pretty good. I know he's not had those double-digit returns that often this season, but the numbers suggest that at some point they're going to come soon. So I quite like Salah. Obviously, he's not essential. You do not need to rip your team up to get him in. You don't have to take -4s if your team looks fine. You don't have to sell Harden if he's okay. All that usual stuff. But if you've got the money, why not? So I think they're all good picks depending on your budget, depending on whether you need a midfielder or forward. I just probably would ignore Gakpo for now. I think try and find the money for Wirtz if you can. So I promise this is the last Liverpool player that I'll talk about in this video, and that's Virgil van Dijk at 5.9 million. Absolute hero in game week 26 with his 17-pointer. And obviously now people are thinking about bringing him in. Is he a good pick, especially for those of you looking to play up until the blank in 31? I mean, put simply, yes. There are not that many better defenders to look at bringing in right now. Assuming that most of us have got our Arsenal defenders in place, then there's no need to bring them in. Plus, they blank in game week 31 anyway. Hill or Senesi, going to talk about them soon. They're worth looking at. If you can get the right Brentford defender, they're quite good. But I think with everything going on with Collins right now, I just probably wouldn't bother. I like Joachim Andersen from Fulham. He's got good fixtures. I think if you've got Palace defenders, Wolves at home this week, Leeds at home in 30. Man City defenders like Gay are not bad either, but Palace and City blank in 31. Liverpool don't. So although it's Brighton away and there's not a great chance of a clean sheet, he can get defensive contributions, he can score goals, and the 4 fixtures before that are pretty good. So I would argue, if you're looking for someone for the next 5 game weeks in defence, Van Dijk might be one of the top options, if not the top. And I know that looks massively reactionary because of the 17-pointer, but he offers a lot. Goal threat. He's one of the best premium defenders for defensive contributions. He's averaged 9.31 per start so far this year. And Liverpool, I know, right, for a lot of this season, I've sat here and said Liverpool clean sheets are coming. They just haven't happened. But in terms of expected goals conceded, Liverpool are like top 3 defence for this season. And that's been the case recently as well. They have kept the opposition down to so many limited chances. They're probably due a few more clean sheets. So I think Van Dijk's pretty good. If you've got 6 million to spend on a defender, and that's not going to stop you making other moves in your attack that you want to go for, I think it's hard to argue against Van Dijk being one of the top options right now. I haven't looked at defender transfers in this week, so I'm interested to see who people are going for. Yeah, Hill obviously at the top, then Van Dijk. I mean, the likes of Gay, Chalobah, Mukiele. I mean, again, Gay's fine for the next 4, but then he blanks in 31. Chalobah I would go nowhere near. Obviously, Burnley at home's good. If you've got a lot of transfers to spare, fine. Bring him in and take him out again. But the fixtures are rubbish after Burnley. Arsenal away, Villa away, Newcastle at home, Everton away, City at home, Man United at home, Brighton away. I wouldn't be expecting a huge amount of clean sheets there, although he has been great for DEFCONs. And Mukiele is just a really good value pick. And to be fair, I don't mind that one because you got Fulham at home up next. He's only 4.6 million. Maybe you can use him as part of a rotation. So that one's okay. But overall, I just think, yeah, I mean, I know he's second most transferred in, so maybe I'm just stating the obvious, but he's just a really good option. I know, again, he's not going to get 17 pointers every week, but he's got multiple routes to points. And I think Liverpool have probably not got the amount of clean sheets so far this season that the stats suggest, and at some point that could turn around. It might be with these good fixtures. So let's talk about Hill versus Senesi, because some of you might be looking for a cheaper defender than Virgil van Dijk, and the fixtures are really good coming up for Bournemouth. So West Ham away, Sunderland at home, Brentford at home, Burnley away next 4. They do have a game in the blank, although it is Man United at home, and a lot of you will have like Bruno Fernandes. So that's not ideal. But obviously, even in a game like that, they could pick you up defensive contributions, and they're almost the perfect defenders to be looking at if you're wildcarding in 32. Because in 32, it's Arsenal away, 33 is Newcastle away, so you're probably not going to want to play them in either of those two fixtures. So the question is, you need a cheap defender, you don't want to go for Van Dijk, you can't afford him, whatever. Is there any reason now to go for Senesi over Hill? Not really, to be honest, especially with the 0.8 million saving. I mean, Hill's defensive contributions per start now this season is 10.8. So he's hitting that 10 threshold quite regularly. Now, Senesi is at 12 defensive contributions per start. So you would say for the rest of the season, based on what we've seen so far, Senesi will probably hit it slightly more often, but probably not in an impactful way. And I know right now, because of the last few games, Hill's got DEFCON, Senesi hasn't. People are starting to look at it like Senesi will never get defensive contributions. That's not going to be the case, right? These things can change pretty quickly. And actually, when I look at Senesi back to the Chelsea game in game week 19, he's picked up defensive contributions quite a lot. So he's had them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times since game week 19. And the reason I picked the Chelsea game is because that was the start of James Hill's run. So you could argue Senesi's still slightly better for defensive contributions, but for 0.8 million saving, I think you just buy Hill right now. I mean, you could say that Senesi's 100% nailed on based on the season so far, and Hill's like 99%, but right now, I just don't see this combination changing. Iriola's going to keep starting both of them. So if money's tight, definitely get Hill. If you had 4.8 to spend, it's not going to impact anywhere else. I guess you could buy Senesi, but I know which one of these two is going to keep rising in price over the next couple of weeks, and it's not Senesi. It's going to be the one that's only 4 million. So Jurgen Strand Larsen picked up 2 goals in game week 26. He's a massive differential and only costs 6.1 million. And some of you might be looking for a cheap forward right now. Would I bring him in? Probably not, unless it's under specific circumstances where you only need him for the next 1 or 2 game weeks. The problem is you've missed the Burnley game now. And look, Wolves at home in 27 is good, and he'll start that game, so it's not a bad fixture. But then it's 2 away games against Man United and Spurs, which are not awful fixtures, but not great either. And obviously, we don't quite know yet how Spurs will be under the new manager. And yes, it's Leeds at home in game week 30, but the problem is Mateta's not getting surgery. So he will be an option in the next couple of weeks, and he will get used. It might be that Strand Larsen does so well over the next few games that he becomes first choice number 9, but Mateta will still get a lot of minutes off the bench. And I find it hard to believe that he won't start games. So Strand Larsen is just a short-term pick. Apart from now, if you're buying him, you've missed that Burnley game. So at 6.1 million, he is really good value if he keeps playing, but I think Mateta would be a problem. The issue you've got is if you need a cheap forward, it's like, who do you buy right now? Because if you look at someone like Calvert-Lewin, for example, who I think actually, yeah, he missed the last game because of illness, but should be back. Like, it's Villa away, then City at home next 2, and they got Palace away in 30. Now, from game week 29, the fixtures are not bad overall, but is it the right time to buy him? I'm not sure it is. And if you look at forwards kind of, I don't know, 7 million, let's go 7.4 or below. I mean, Thiago is obvious, I would say, at 7 million. Like Krupi Jr., he's okay, but he was benched in the last game. He always gets subbed early. There's not a huge amount of options. Šeško's minutes are not guaranteed. Evan Nielsen just got subbed early. I'm sure people don't want to go there. I feel like basically with forwards, you've got to try and find more money or just go super cheap. I just think Strand Larsen is going to be a problem sooner rather than later, basically. Next couple of weeks, his minutes are going to go down, in my opinion. There is, I guess, a chance that Mateta takes a bit longer to come back. But on current information, we're expecting him back by like 28, 29. I just think he will get used. He's done well for Palace this season. So quite a few people seem to be thinking about selling Enzo Fernandez this week, to the point that he's the third most sold midfielder going into game week 27, even though he plays Burnley at home. And it has been frustrating to own him over the last couple of weeks, especially if you jumped on him late. Because obviously Palmer and João Pedro have picked up all the points, and when Palmer's on the pitch, he always takes penalties. So Enzo Fernandez doesn't look quite as good as he did a couple of weeks ago, but it's Burnley at home. I can't think of many scenarios where it's worth selling a player before they have a fixture like that. We know he'll start, he'll get good minutes, he could walk away with the returns in this game. It just doesn't make any sense to use a transfer to sell him before such a good fixture. And yes, the last couple of games have been disappointing, and it's not all about stats, I get it. But you look at his expected goal involvement against Leeds, 0.82, 1.02 against Wolves. He's done pretty well, despite not getting the actual returns. I think it was the Wolves game, maybe, possibly the Leeds one, where Neto had a head. I think it was Neto had a header, like should have scored. Like how he's not walked away with at least one return from these two games, I don't know. And he could do something similar, where he sets up a few chances, gets a few shots, but this time they go in, right? Like it's football; these things can change pretty quickly. Burnley at home just so good. By all means, sell him in game week 28. Arsenal away is terrible, and the fixtures afterwards aren't so good. But Burnley at home, I think he's a pretty easy hold. I don't think he becomes must-sell in 28, by the way, because the fixtures afterwards are okay. But for most people, it probably is going to make sense to get rid. Just not before Burnley. And then we got Jarrod Bowen. I've spoken a bit in this video about buying forwards this week, like Thiago or Ekitike. Should Jarrod Bowen be on your shopping list? Not really. For the same reasons as what I mentioned earlier on with Somerville. Liverpool away 28, Fulham away 29, Man City at home 30, Villa away 31. It just doesn't look that good. And I know West Ham are scoring a few goals at the moment. They're playing well. Jarrod Bowen always starts, always plays 90 minutes. So he's not a terrible option, but there's no way I'll be looking to bring him in with a fixture run that looks like that. If you own him, maybe it's a slightly different conversation. Bournemouth at home in 27 is not that bad. So maybe you can keep him for 1 week and then sell him in 28. Like if you've only got one free transfer, for example, I mean, bringing in Thiago is never going to be a bad option, but you could just see what Bowen can do against Bournemouth first, and then maybe sell to Thiago in 28. Maybe give yourself one more transfer, a bit more flexibility next week. That will be okay. And let's remind ourselves that Bowen's also on penalties right now. He's absolutely nailed on. He's on penalties. Bournemouth at home, not a bad fixture. So if I had him, I'd be very tempted to keep this week and then look to offload in 28. If I didn't have him, there's no way I'll be bringing him in right now. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 500,000 subscribers. Only takes 2 seconds to hit the button if you haven't done it already. And I'll be back tomorrow with a game week preview. So I'll see you then.